Welcome back to A Plus Parents, everyone. And we have a very special guest who's back with us again, Dr. Melanie Wilson. So super excited. And she's back because why? She's got out a new book called, ready for this? It is called Training Aliens. And if you have ever seen any of the things with Grammar Galaxy and all the things that she does, pretty amazing. But you want to know about Melanie. So first of all, it's Dr. Melanie Wilson, PhD, right? So super cool. And Melanie is a psychiatrist. Would you say a psychiatrist or psychologist?
I'm a psychologist.
A psychologist. Right. I know there's so one, I guess a psychiatrist writes scripts and you just help people feel good. So this
right.
Can help work through things. So, when I first met Melanie, she had the email was psycho with 6, right? Because she had 6 kids. They've all been homeschooled and now they're all off doing amazing things in their life, which is awesome. And Melanie had a 20-year practice in the psychology world as a Christian psychologist, which is super cool. And she's also worked as a college professor. She's been a homeschool mom, and she has always had a passion for writing and for language arts. And so she's written the Grammar Galaxy book, but now she has this new book called Training Aliens, which we're going to talk about today, because, when you think about what is it to train aliens, it's kind of like, when kids show up, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do with this thing, right? It's almost like you got this little baby that does not come with an instruction book, and it's not like the one that you had before. And so kind of an amazing adventure. So gosh, I'm trying to think of when we met. It's at least 10 years, right? That we've known each other and got
it's been maybe because my son Andy was in high school and took your ACT math boot camp.
That's how we got started.
That was our first contact.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how old is he now?
He is 24.
Okay.
24.
Oh my gosh. Well, good. Well, it's close to 10 years then. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, right.
Very cool. Okay. Well, I love it. So,
yeah,
it's funny because what I didn't know about you is that you and your family with your husband, you guys have actually been in the media world, in the book publishing business and working with books. And so this is not a new industry that you're involved with, which makes it easier because you know what you're doing because you've got a background in it. So
right.
that's super cool. Cool. Okay, so let's see what else. You're a tennis player, right? And you like to scrapbook. And so it's kind of like now, with being a homeschool mom of 6, and it's funny because you say that was without a doubt that was your the best job you've had is being able to go through and do all that with young people, but then having your practice and how many homeschool families that you've supported over the years. So this is really cool. Let's see. I don't know if I left anything out. Because I want to talk about the new book, and as well, like when you talk about training aliens, what is kind of like the premise of it? So, because it's like you hear the word training aliens and you're like, training aliens. Well, right. So
right. Well, before I answer that, I do just want to clarify that I have not been practicing as a psychologist since my second son was born. I only practice on friends and family, Dennis. That's it.
I gotcha. Okay, good. All right. Well, that's
but
cool.
I do.
But you still did that for 20 years. So okay.
Well,
so
no, not for 20 years. So I am a licensed psychologist, but I took my training experience and applied it to writing and speaking instead.
Gotcha. Okay, that's good. Well, I know when we're at conventions, it's always like, what always gets me is that we're looking at the convention schedule and then we end up speaking at the same time. So I never get to go in, I'm somewhere and you're somewhere. So I got to figure it out one time. I'll have to look at the next one we're at together and see. I want to come pop in and see what you're doing, which would be,
that would be so fun.
Yeah.
So
okay.
To answer your question, it's been amusing for me to have training aliens at conferences on display because parents will walk by and look at it and start laughing. And because they are saying to themselves, yeah, I have some aliens that I'm training.
Right.
But the concept behind it is that kids are being asked by NASA to attend space camp and help them train visiting aliens in social and emotional skills. And the reason that I did it that way is because many kids who are maybe a little behind or just not that confident in their skills feel a bit insecure, and they don't want to be called out as having a particular problem. And so this allows them to learn with the idea that they're actually helping people, aliens who are worse off than they are, to learn these skills, and they get to experience what it looks like when someone is struggling in an area, and also to try out some potential solutions, because I've written the stories in the curriculum in such a way that it's like a choose your own adventure book, where kids are asked, how should people at space camp respond to this alien who is having a pretty much of a temper tantrum, let's say? What should they do? And both of the options are common, that people choose to react in that way, but they're both ineffective. And so it gives kids a real window into what are the choices. And okay, if I tried those, they're not likely to work because here's what happened in the story. And then they go to the training manual, where we help kids practice these skills in a very fun way, all under the umbrella of we need to model good behavior for our alien guests.
Love it. Wow. It's funny because as you're sharing that, we often think that kids just kind of get social skills and they kind of get their emotional skills. And sometimes that happens, right? But really, it's like, like we can teach them, and you're actually approaching that in the book. And it's great because you're approaching it not from, hey, we're teaching you this, you're teaching someone else. And I love that whenever we let young people be the teacher. It's like, that's just so great, because then it's, it's not personal, right? In that moment. And at the same time, it ends up where they're seeing for themselves how they can apply it themselves. So, when you look at those two areas, so social skills, emotional skills, I mean, there's so many other things that that you could have looked at. So why is it? Because, there's more things that kids could be taught, but you picked those for this particular program. Why did you do that?
Okay.
Coming from, because
Yes.
you have a psychology background. And so, some things that maybe some of the rest of us don't know, right?
Well, the main reason that I wanted to write a curriculum about this, well, there are actually a couple of different reasons. One, I couldn't find anything to offer to parents, to suggest to parents to use for this other than worksheets that have been developed for the classroom. And that is such a bad way to teach social and emotional skills, because many kids who are, those skills are just emerging for them, they're working on them, are also struggling academically. So you put a worksheet in front of them, it's just going to be a no-go, besides the fact that that's just a very bad way to teach these skills. And then the second reason is because I find myself, even with adults who are friends, acquaintances, and even homeschooling parents who ask me for advice on a particular issue, I find myself teaching the same skills over and over and over. And I just wish that we would be teaching kids these skills, explicitly teaching them, so that they don't have to spend $150 an hour to see a psychologist later in life. And you referenced that some of these skills are caught, and I think that's especially the case when we're talking about social skills. Kids who just seem to come from the womb making friends, they're very extroverted, friendly, social. I mean, that's kind of like you, Dennis. You probably were like that.
A little bit,
making friends. That's you. But then we have kids who they're more introverted, at least, or they can have other issues like anxiety, or it just is the case that they're just maybe not very emotionally expressive. And we feel very uncomfortable giving people direct feedback on their social skills. So as an example, I had a friend who had very little facial expression and also very little would give me very little verbal feedback. So I'm on the phone with her and I would say something, tell a story, whatever, and there's silence. I mean, that's it's very uncomfortable, for people to be talking with someone who isn't using their facial expression to, say, I hear you, I'm tracking with you, and also isn't giving you any verbal feedback. But it's also extremely uncomfortable for me to say, hey, could you say that you heard what I was, expressing and you understand
Right.
it? Because when you're talking to an adult now, that's very uncomfortable. So much better to explicitly teach this and how our behavior is impacting other people and how we can improve it with practice. Some kids just need more practice than others too.
Right. Well, that's for sure. And practice is something like anything, right? The
Mm-hmm.
more you practice something, the more. But you said something that really it got my attention as you were sharing that, because you've seen in working with families over the years, and obviously 6 of your own, right? But then even more so of all the different homeschool families that you've had a chance to work with, and you've seen you said that there was the same ones kept showing up over and over again. So when you see that, like, what are some of the common common challenges with emotional skills that kids
Yes.
experience?
Yeah, I would say the number one issue is anxiety. And that was the number one
Mm.
issue that I saw when I was practicing, people coming in with anxiety. And now, post pandemic, it is an epidemic of anxiety. And oftentimes, parents have no idea what to do about it. And that is just so unfortunate because, first of all, the really positive thing is that anxiety is the most treatable emotional mental condition. You're most likely to have success with it. However, I'll just go ahead and say it because I know some of the people listening to us right now are thinking, yeah, I have anxiety,
Yeah, it
or
goes through
my
the parents
child.
too, sure.
Right. Or my child does. It usually goes hand in hand, quite honestly. When you
Right.
have a very anxious child, you often have one or both parents who has at least a more anxious temperament. And the number one thing that I can tell, I'm not going to make them wait. I'm going to tell them the number one thing that you can do is not allow your child to keep avoiding what makes them anxious. Not allow yourself to avoid. It feels like the right thing to do. It's like, oh, okay. Maybe I went to a concert and there were just a lot of people there and I felt very uncomfortable. I start thinking about, it's going to be really hard to get out of here. When it's over, it's just going to be like a hustle and bustle and a crowd. And so, you know what? I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go to that next time. And then what will happen is maybe it's just like a smaller concert or a smaller theater thing. And you're thinking, yeah, that's not good. I'm not going to go to that either. And your world just keeps getting smaller because when we avoid anxiety, it gets worse, not better.
Mm.
It's counterintuitive. So what we have to do, what I tell people is it's like a muscle. If I went to the gym and I was like, oh, this is really heavy, I'm going to put that down. This is hard. It's taking me a lot of effort to lift that weight. I would get weaker, not stronger. And so
Right.
anxiety is just like that. If you go to something, you're in a situation that causes you some anxiety, work through it just like you would with a workout, with an exercise routine, and you will get stronger and your anxiety will decrease.
Oh, I love that. It's funny because I'm like, all right, where are my own anxieties? Like, where do I, right? And for me, it's airports, right?
Uh-huh.
And it is
Mhm.
just so funny. And and so I've been like, all right. And it's like, I'm not going to avoid going to the airport because I'm going to be traveling and I've got to get to different places. And I'm in the airports a lot,
Mhm.
and I drive my family crazy because I'm like, okay, well, we're going to the airport 3 hours early. And they're like,
Mhm.
my kids are like, Dad, but rah, 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 right?
Uh-huh.
So I kind of bribe them. I'm like, yeah, but if you go to the airport with me, we're gonna go in the club level lounge and we get to have food, So now they're kind of like getting there. But the more that I share that with people about going to the airport early, it's funny how often people have that same kind of anxiety. And instead of dealing with it, they avoid it. And the next time they go to the airport, they're running late and the anxiety and it starts again. I'm like, I'm going early, man. I'm chilling and I'm gonna the anxiety's still there. Like, I
Okay.
can still feel it, right?
Mhm.
But I've put some practices in place that help me deal with it. And I
Okay.
think, and the more that I do that, I think the more that it helps relieve it. And so that, I
Mhm.
know when I get in an Uber or get in a taxi or, I'm driving to the airport that I know I'm going early. I know like I've got that part managed,
Okay.
and then I can deal with everything else there is to deal with after that, right?
Right. Right.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Well,
Yeah.
okay,
And
so
go ahead.
well, I was just, like when because parents see this and they're going to see, and one they might see something for themselves, but then also with when they're working with their kids, like how is it best that they are going to be able to work with them because you've got a curriculum, you've got a book now that actually can work with kids and that is teaching them through that. So how do parents get involved with that with them?
Yeah. So um, the curriculum is such a helpful tool. And if I could just tell you a little anecdote that happened at the last conference I attended, where you were as well,
Uh-huh.
but I just wasn't expecting this. And I had a father come up to me and say that he teaches these skills to at-risk youth. Okay,
Mm,
that's what he does in
right.
his job. I mean, he knows all the psychology lingo, and we had a great conversation. But he said, I don't know how to teach my own kids who are not, at that kind of more at
Right.
risk level with all the various more extreme challenges. And so I was giving him some ideas of how he could do this on his own. But he came back the next day and he said, because my curriculum is really designed for K-8, and he
Mhm.
had high schoolers. And he came back the next day and he said, I'm going to get your curriculum and I'm just going to make it work. Well, why? Because it is a lot of work to decide what skills am I going to teach, how am I going to have a plan for teaching them? Because even I, as a psychologist and homeschooling mom, it's not like I had a plan put together for, okay, today we're going to learn about how to manage anxiety. And the next day we're going to learn about what do we do when we start feeling down, consistently down? How can we, improve our mood in a healthy, positive way? It's like, I didn't have that. And so, you get to, well, we're just going to do algebra today, I guess.
Hey, that's a
And
great way to get out of feeling down on
yeah,
yourself. Let's do some algebra. Yeah.
right. And so I know, because I needed it too. I know parents need a plan, a step by step. This is what we can focus on. And so in my curriculum, the very first lesson is on meeting new people and shyness, which I explain because there's a video course to the curriculum that comes along with it. No extra charge. I just really wanted people to have access to it. And I explained shyness is a form of anxiety. It's
Mm,
not, it's not just like, oh, that's just who you are. No, it's a form of anxiety. Now, introversion itself is not anxiety. It's fine to have, I prefer to have fewer friends and have more one-on-ones and quiet conversation, and being alone recharges me versus being with groups of people. That's fine. But when we're actually shy and we're afraid to meet people, and that is anxiety. And we can do things, activities, practices that make it more likely that we'll feel comfortable meeting new people when we choose to.
Right.
So that is, I think, just so helpful. And I think even this father who purchased my curriculum is going to be able to take my plan and say, I know something that I can add to this to make it more high school appropriate for my kids. And, this reminds me of something else that I would like to teach them. So I just think it is a great jumping off point. And for example, one of the things that we know can help to reduce anxiety in the moment when we're starting to feel that anxiety creep up on us is to do some deep breathing. Well, younger kids are not going to be super excited about doing deep breathing practice, right? And so I got this idea of calling it astronaut breathing because kids are at space camp. And so instead of doing deep breathing, another way of breathing that is just as effective at helping to reduce anxiety is to take a deep breath and hold it until it starts to feel uncomfortable. And I knew that kids would like that because kids like to do that anyway. It's like, how long can I hold my breath? That kind of thing.
Right.
But it will help them reduce the anxiety, and they won't even really know that that is what they're doing. They're practicing deep breathing to reduce anxiety.
Wow. Oh, that's very cool. That's funny because I've done some breathing exercises like that, but it is part of it is you are breathing in, but you're holding your breath, you're breathing out. That's really awesome. And I like it. Astronaut training. That's
astronaut breathing. So we just
astronaut breathing. That is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we hear this and I think it's so much less than it used to be, but we hear, sometimes, especially I'm at a convention and I meet a brand new homeschool family and, and you can always tell, because their eyes are kind of glazed over and they're like, oh my gosh, overwhelming. Right. And, they're there, but, when you talk to them, one of the things that, they hear from non-homeschoolers and, that's the biggest thing. One of the things that they're I don't want to say overcoming, but one of the things that they have to be in a conversation about is because sometimes people don't get how amazing homeschooling is. But one of the things that you hear is the idea of social skills. And it's like, oh, well, kids aren't going to get that. So, when you look and see, because I look at my kids and I'm like, my kids have great social skills, right? And they're homeschool kids, right? So, but what do you notice like for kids, like some of the more common social skill challenges that kids could have?
Yes. So I honestly feel like the number one thing is not being willing to interact. It's like, again, that goes back to anxiety. You take them to this great homeschool group activity and there your kids are just hanging with each other. They're off to the side. Honestly, I would say that is the number one thing. And I'm not going to go really deep into that because I feel like I've kind of talked about that already, that we can encourage them to meet people. But one thing that I can add to it that I didn't really think about this before, but so many of us, even as adults, have not been taught step by step, this is how you do this. And what I mean is, how do you join a group? So you take your kids to this great homeschool activity that you're hoping is going to be a place that they make some new friends and, develop more of these social skills. And they see a group of kids standing together and chatting, but they don't know what to do. And so it creates anxiety. And we know no matter what we're talking about, like if you're going to have a surgery, for example, if you don't know what to expect, your anxiety is likely to be very high. If you don't know step by step what is going to happen and what is expected of you, that is when we get anxious. Okay, so if we teach kids, like I do in Training Aliens, that when you see a group that you would like to join, these are the steps to take. Number one, stand just outside the group and listen to the conversation. Okay, so you're just not in a creepy way, but you're just standing there and
Right.
you're just listening to what they're talking about. The next step is to try to make eye contact with a member of that group. And when you do, you smile. Okay. Then if the person, is, reciprocating, smiling back and holding your eye contact, then you say, hi, my name is Melanie. Would it be okay? Or I would probably say, I'm Melanie, because it's way more informal, right? I'm Melanie. Could I join you? If that person says, yeah, sure. Then you say, thank you. And you introduce yourself to the other members of the group, find out what their names are. And that is how you do it. If the group would say no, then kids also have to learn that that is okay, because it might be a group that is formed for a specific purpose with specific people. Maybe this is a leadership team meeting and you're not one of the leaders,
Right.
Regardless, it doesn't mean anything about us. And I think that that takes a lot more work, to accept that it's like, I'm not being rejected. It's just this group is not for me. But we teach kids in the curriculum to say, okay, and then walk away. Some kids on the spectrum might have a harder time doing that. So that's why we want to, reinforce that when someone says, no, you can't be a part of this group, to say, okay, and walk away. But that is a kind of thing that will give kids confidence. This is what I am going to do step by step. And most of the time, groups will say, sure, join us.
Right. All right. Because that eye contact, when you're making eye contact with somebody and that smile, right away, like, okay, I'm invited in, or this isn't the best time. And it might not even be maybe just in that moment, but you can always come back. And I love that. It's funny because, you think about people that do sales training, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the sales training, people have to really get okay with when someone says no, because they're not saying no to you. They're saying no to whatever request you made, or they're saying no to whatever it was you were talking about, but it's not personal. It's
Right.
just in that moment, it's just a no. And, most no's become a yes at some point as well. So it's just about the timing as well.
Right.
That's a great strategy. And I love that, because when I'm talking to people, I always want to be able to look at them and see, look in their eyes and see, well, who are you? And and they look right back, and it's that those nonverbals are actually huge. You kind of tell how it's going to go, and what you can do and not do. That's very, very cool. Well,
Right.
when you look at this, and you have Grammar Galaxy, which is an amazing program, and kids that use it love it. I know the parents love it as well. And you started looking at the idea of creating this, because it's different than, like, as you were saying with the worksheets and things. I think too, worksheets, it's like you're getting one point of view. Here's the worksheet, here's the answer, and that's it. So you made this very different. So how would you say it's different, in terms of for kids and their experience, and for parents too, as parents are working with their kids on this?
Right. So the one thing that I have to tell parents right away, which can be a bit of a disappointment, is that unfortunately this is not an independent curriculum. I cannot hand this to a child and say, okay, go learn your social and emotional skills and come back when you're an amazing person to be around. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have a magic wand. I can't make that happen, because the best way for kids to learn these skills is within a family or a small group. And so I encourage people who don't have family members who can participate to start a co-op group, start a class at your learning center where other kids can participate. At the very least, I tell parents who are homeschooling a single child to do the discussion and that kind of thing. And then when you have kids come over, you have cousins over, you have neighbors over to play, then do these activities that are going to teach that skill in a social context. And I said, the people who are visiting you will have no idea what you're doing. And why?
Right.
Because I've created so many activities that are going to be fun for kids. Yes, they're going to learn, but they're very entertaining and motivating and rewarding. And that is from years of experience having a co-op that met in my home. And we had so many kids, and I just got to know what they enjoyed doing. So in the curriculum, they will do things like dramatization. My kids loved dramatizing things because they would make it silly and funny. And we encourage that. I mean, they learn from that as well. So we do have discussions. It is story based, and not just in the story that I wrote about the aliens at space camp, but I also encourage parents to choose a picture book that teaches the concept. Picture books, because these are short books. They're not going to bore kids. Adults love picture books too. They're,
I'm one of them. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So there is that aspect. We do games. We do activities that are related to space camp. For example, in the teamwork lesson, in the story, it talks about the campers are building a moon rover and testing it. It's just made out of like straws and cardboard and that kind of thing. But then in the activity book, the training manual of the curriculum, then you have the opportunity to try that with your kids, have them work together to put a moon rover together. So there's going to be some STEM activities involved occasionally too.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome. So, I mean, what I keep hearing is the kids are doing the work inside of the course. The parents are there, they're facilitating, they're being a part of it, but everybody's learning. Everybody's learning. Moms, dads, young people, family members. And it's just, it makes it more fun that way too, because everybody is going to benefit from the program. So that's really awesome.
You are on to me, because that was another goal that I have had since my years of counseling. I would have parents bring me a child, especially teens, and say, fix them. I'll be back in an hour to pick them up. And I would explain over and over, I am with your child for an hour a week. You're with them many hours during the week. I need you to partner with me to help your child learn these skills. And what I love about this curriculum, because it is parent/teacher led, that everyone who is using it has a common language then. Oh, okay. I see you're getting anxious. Let's do some astronaut breathing, and do it together with your child. So that is an example of how using this will help encourage the learning, I think, for years to come, because these are skills that we're always developing. We're always improving on these skills.
Wow. It was great. And, it's like, you can hear your own passion for this, right? So it's like you've taken your life's work and now you've turned it into something that you're really just sharing with people about, how it works. And I love a common language, because that is so important. It is, when we can talk from the same language. And, I like astronaut breathing. It's like, okay, that's just a no-brainer now. Now I know what that is and what we're going to do and how do we do that. And it's like, it's like family time. Okay, guys, let's do family astronaut breathing. Here we go. Right. So
right.
That's awesome. All right. So now people, how do they find you? How do they get this program ordered? What do they need to do?
All right, wonderful. So my website is funtolearnbooks.com. If you go to that website /shop, funtolearnbooks.com/shop, and search for Training Aliens. I'm still trying to get my website where Training Aliens is on the front page. I don't have it yet. But if you search for Training Aliens, you'll see the curriculum. And I offer it in PDF, print, secular, or faith-based. And that is just a difference in part of the training manual. I either use Bible stories and scriptures to go along with the activities, or I use fables and quotes in the secular version. So families have options. If you are a Christian family who can't get funding reimbursement for Christian curriculum. You can purchase the secular version, and you will see right on the product description that you can download a table of all the Bible stories and scriptures that I use in the faith-based version, so that you can supplement your secular curriculum. And Dennis, then when they add whichever version of it to their cart, the course will automatically be added to it for free, the video course.
Oh, that's
where
great.
I'm teaching the concepts to kids. And what I've also done is made this curriculum so affordable, because more than I want reimbursement for my work, and I'm not saying I don't, I do want reimbursement for my hours of work, but more than that, I want to get this into the hands of kids and families who can benefit from it. So if you want to use this with your friends in a co-op, a group setting, a classroom setting, only one of you needs to purchase the curriculum. Wow. You don't have to purchase every person. So
that's really amazing. Well, and we're going to have all the website links in the show notes. So for people, if you're, go back and you'll see the beginning, you can see the show notes. And Melanie, it's just so great. Like, I guess, I don't want to have to just keep waiting until you put out the next book. Well, let's get back together again, come back and see what's happening. And I just love it. So, everybody check it out, go find out, see what Dr. Melanie Wilson is up to. And you get tell me the website one more time. So,
sure.
I know there's an S at the end. I want to make sure I don't want to say it wrong. So,
funtolearnbooks.com.
There it is.
And that's it.
/shop. Okay.
/shop. That's right. Or you can see the shop tab at the top. That's fine too.
Right.
And I just want to say, Dennis, you're one of my favorite people. You have been an incredible blessing to me over the years. And I highly recommend your math courses. They have been incredible for my kids. My youngest, Nick, just scored off the charts in math on his ACT, and he is, I believe he still has a math minor in college. So you've had a huge impact on our family.
Oh my gosh, that's so great to hear. Well, when I had the convention, I started going through the program. Where's Melanie? I gotta go find her. So that's great. All right. Well, I know, I think we're going to see each other in Florida, and we'll be at a convention there. So we'll get to, I'll see you then, and we'll get to say hi again in person. And for everyone else, it's funtolearnbooks.com, and go /shop, or hit the shop button, and you can go in and check out everything that Dr. Melanie's up to. So thanks so much for being here. Thanks for making your day work to be here as always. And for everybody tuning in, thanks for listening today, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.